Because it's a bye week down in Hattiesburg doesn't mean Coach Charles Huff doesn't have to do some work. He just finished up a press conference. Now he's got to jump on with us here on Sports Talk Mississippi. Coach, always appreciate your time. I'm gonna make you do my job for just a minute. I know coaches don't like to do this, but we have to. I want you to grade your team. It's not really the midway point of your season, but I want you to give me a grade of what you think your team has performed to this point.
Yeah, I think we're about a C plus. There's a lot of things that, don't necessarily show up in the game to hurt you that, we got to get cleaned up. I think we've played, I would say, inconsistent in spurts. But I don't say that as a bad thing. And I'm not saying that, hey, C plus is where we want to be. I just think, as a coach, looking at the entire picture, offense, defense, special teams, there's still a lot of areas for growth. There's still a lot of areas where we can improve. We have done some good things. I think we have shown flashes of, hey, we could be really good. And then we go on the road and we act like we've never played football before. So I think there's still room to grow.
I always ask this question of coaches, and I feel like I get a different answer. Just depends on the team, depends on the coach. But is the bye week coming at a good time for your program?
I think so. I mean, I think obviously everyone's always the first, 2 weeks of training camp. We're back in the summer when the schedules come out. Everyone ranks their schedules, and this is an easy schedule, hard schedule. They're all hard. I mean, no one has an easy schedule, right? Some people's schedule may not look as hard, but I think it's coming at a good time because obviously it's the course that we've been planning. We've planned that, hey, if we can get to this point, we get to kind of recalibrate and look at some things moving into conference play. We've been at it for 8 weeks straight now. You're talking 4 weeks of training camp, of banging and going physical. And then you're talking, 4.5, 5 weeks of a season, so we've been at this thing for a while. And I think, again, I said in the press conference today, sometimes it's not just the physical. We're not beat up physically. Sometimes it's just the mental, to take a deep breath. These guys are real people. They have real things going on in their life. Mental health is real. So just the release of a little bit of a grind, catch your breath, do your laundry, catch up on some homework that you haven't done, get a chance to see your family. That kind of just rejuvenates you a little bit. It's almost, these guys got a real job and they don't get a vacation, so this is a good time to, kind of catch your breath. It gives us a chance as coaches also to do some recruiting. We don't get out a lot during the year with the schedule, and also gives us a chance to do some self-assessment, right? Where are we really? Like you just asked, what's your grade? Well, where are we really? Are we calling the best plays? Are we calling this play because it worked last year and it's supposed to work this year, but it's not really working? Are we calling this play because we thought this player was going to be good? So it helps in a lot of areas.
When you have a bye week, is that just an extra week of game prep for the next opponent, or do you take that opportunity to, maybe install something that you've been thinking about, or can you kind of go back to a preseason camp mode in a bye week?
I think it varies. I think it varies on what type of team you have. 10 years ago, you only had 15 new guys come in. So this was an opportunity to develop some of your 2s and 3s. This was an opportunity to really dive into some fundamental issues. This was an opportunity to self-scout and say, okay, hey, we've been running a lot of plays out of this formation. Do we want to continue to do that? How would we change? Now, I had the conversation with the staff. The guys we would be developing by doing some developmental stuff probably won't be here next year. They'll probably jump in the portal. So I'm not going to develop them for the next program. So we're going to look at, self-scout and fundamental improvement with everybody. Usually it's hey, let's get your 2s and your 3s of scrimmage. Let's get them some more full contact reps because they haven't got them in games. Well, I don't want them, getting better for the next team. So we're going to actually just keep on the path we're on. We're going to do a lot of self-scout improvement. These first couple of days. We won't start, Georgia Southern until, the end of the week from a coaching standpoint. I don't believe in starting too early because it's almost like the first game of the year. You have so much time to prepare that you start chasing ghosts. You put in too many plays and all of a sudden you're out of your routine. So we're going to treat it like a normal week, do a lot of self-scout, do a lot of fundamental improvement holistically. We've got plenty of things we need to work on. So we're going to use it in that fashion.
You kind of hit on it there with the transfer portal. The NCAA just announced that they're going down to one transfer portal window to try to consolidate things. As a coach, who changed jobs last year and you had to work the transfer portal, from one end to the other, are you in favor of that move? Do you think that's a smart move for college football?
Yeah, let me say this. Your sports talk may like go viral after this. I think that
Oh,
is the right move.
okay.
I was a part of the voting for one window.
Hmm.
I think it is the best way to manage the situation we have. It doesn't solve any problems
Okay.
because kids can still unenroll at any point and go to any school they want to go to. So we're making it seem like it's going to solve the problem. If one of my kids decides today, windows closed, portals closed, I haven't been fired. If he decides that he's going to unenroll from school and go enroll in Hawaii, there's nothing that the NCAA or me or Hawaii can do about it. And he can walk on to Hawaii and start playing right away. So, yes, I think from what the NCAA can control, I think that's the best thing to go about it. It's not
Mhm.
going to solve our problem, though. That's where, we fix things, but we don't always fix things. And I don't know the answer, because we've got this cat out of the bag with
Yeah.
transfer portal. But it's not going to solve the problem. You're still going to have guys leave in summer. You're still going to hear about, X, Y, and Z quarterback from such and such transfers to such and such place in the summer. And everybody's like,
Mhm.
oh, well, I thought the window was closed.
Yeah.
You can unenroll just like any other student, right? Any other student can completely math student. I got a 4.0. I don't like Southern Miss. I'm going to unenroll from Southern Miss and I'm going to go apply, pay my bills, and go to Ole Miss. There's nothing anyone can do about it. So I do think it's the right thing to do from what the NCAA can manage,
Mhm.
but I don't want people to think that it's going to fix any problems. They're still going to be transferring in the summer. They're still going to be transferring late, into August. Just the reality of where we are.
Yeah. I know something that you're really big on is the idea of player-driven culture. You want leaders in the locker room. At this point in the season, do you feel like that's rooted into your program? Do you feel like you have the leaders in the locker room that you want to have?
Yeah, I think we do, and I think it takes time for that to develop. Because you can nominate a leader. Hey, Johnny's our leader.
Mhm.
But if the kids don't respect him and he's not influencing the people around him, then it doesn't work. And I think that's part of, when you say, are we getting better? What's our grade? Where are we? I think we're making huge strides in that area because the guys that are the leaders that do have the influence, they're starting to play well. So now they're getting validated with their influence. It's the world we live in, right? If your best players are your best leaders, you got a chance. And sometimes in the summer, you may have a guy that has everything to say and everything, hey, come on, guys, we need to work hard. But then if he's not a good player, he loses his influence when the season starts. So we're starting to see a lot of our guys who are playing at a high level, preparing at a high level, are starting to influence at a high level. And there's more and more guys on the team gravitating to those guys.
It really is a simple game. And if you're good on the line of scrimmage, you're usually going to be a pretty good football team. Has your team been good enough thus far on the line of scrimmage for you to look at them and say, hey, we can be a factor all season long in the Sun Belt?
I think on both sides of the ball, we're playing into that. I think our defensive line is starting to play with a lot more cohesion. I think our defensive line is starting to be a lot more disruptive. And I think our offensive line, where we played musical chairs for a few games in the beginning, is starting to really settle into who they are. Once that happens on both sides of the ball, I think as coaches, it's our job now to put them in the best positions. Don't ask them to do what they can't do, or find a better way to do what they do well. So I think, yes, I think we are starting to work toward that. I think we're starting to see a lot more consistency out of both of those lines. And up until this point, we've been able to stay healthy in both of those lines, which is really important.
You played 4 of your first 5 games in Hattiesburg at home. 4 of your next 6 are now on the road. Is that a challenge that you feel like your team is ready for?
Yeah, that's the big question mark. Do we have the ability to have the right mental disposition to go on the road and play well? There is no fans cheering you when you make a big play on the road. There is no third down, the crowd's getting loud and they jump off sides when you're on the road. So we've got to be able to prepare really well throughout the week to go and have an elite road focus, which means there's going to be boos. We talk about controlling the atmosphere. You can quiet the crowd really good when you're on the road. Just play well, or you can allow them to energize your opponent by not playing well. And I'm not sure we're there yet. That's why this week's going to be huge for us. Obviously, I think we've learned from the last scenario, but that's the biggest challenge. And then, like you said, being able to do it consistently on the road. It's one thing you go 1 week, pack your bags and go play really well on the road. It's another thing to do it 4 out of 6 times. So that's going to be a challenge for us.
What's maybe a player or just a situation, something this season thus far that surprised you?
I think, whenever you start talking about freshmen playing, you're really at this level, you're really at a good point. Jalen Carter being able to go in and play at the running back position and have some effectiveness. It's been really good. To see his development from the spring till now has been really good. I think, and it sounds very kind of like, well, coach, you should have known that. But I think Braylon's consistency at the quarterback position has been really good. It's really tough. You have a good, we call it freshman year or first year. You get all the hype. It's hard to come back. People say the sophomore slump. It really doesn't mean that you're a sophomore. It's just your second year. It's hard to do that, to come back after all the hype in the off season and have a good second, go at it. And I think he's doing a really good job. I think he's playing really consistent. Obviously, he's going to tell you he wants to improve. We want him to improve. But I've probably been impressed with those two things: his ability to handle all the noise, and then Jalen Carter being able to contribute as a freshman has been surprising.
What's your relationship like with your offensive coordinator? That's a guy, Blake Anderson, former head coach, very experienced guy. How much is there a lean on there, or is it just you're letting him do his thing within the concept of what you want to do? What is that relationship like?
Yeah, I'm not a micromanager. I think you hire people to do a job. I think it's my job as the head coach to provide all the resources each person in the organization needs to do their job at a high level. I think it's also my job to express and explain my philosophy on, in areas, offense, defense, special teams. And then you let people do their jobs. And I think Blake's done a phenomenal job. He and I talk all day, every day. If there's a play that he likes before he throws it in, if it's new, he comes by and says, "Hey, coach, what do you think about this?" I've went to him with certain plays and he's like, "Yep, we call that, Apple. We put that in." I trust him. He's called games. I'm not one of these head coaches on the sidelines that run it, throw it, pass it. I'm not one of those guys. And I think, again, his history has helped me be a lot more comfortable letting go. When I was a young head coach, I wanted to call every play, and every play that was called, I was like, no, yes, no, and that doesn't work. There's times that I'm not even on the offensive headset when he's calling plays. I'm helping the defense or asking questions on the defense. I think, again, his experience has helped me kind of, trust him. I think his being a head coach, he can trust me, because he understands, the things that come with this position. And it's been great. I couldn't be more proud of what he's done and how he's handled the good and the bad on both sides of the ball. I think he handles the players well. I think he is extremely brilliant, as far as, hey, how do we attack defenses? I haven't felt one time that we went into a game and the game plan wasn't to go attack. And that's kind of what you want. So it's been great.
I'm going to ask you a question that I asked Jeff Lebby on Monday, and that's when you're watching film, especially after, you're coming off of a win, but especially after a loss, are you overly critical on yourself when you're watching film, or do you look at it and go, I had the right play call here. We were in the right situation. We just didn't execute. But as a head coach, I did my job here. Are you able to give yourself the credit where credit's due, or are you just like, no, I didn't do good enough in that situation?
No, I probably lean more toward that. I didn't do good enough. What could I have done better? It's on me, even to the point of, players not executing. I put them out there.
Mhm.
I recruited him. You know what I mean? So I always look at it as what could I have done better?
Mhm.
It's probably why I take losses so hard, because it's not hey, everybody's got a role. Ultimately, ends and falls on me.
Mhm.
Um, I tell the kids all the time, they don't fire players, they fire coaches. I've never
Yeah.
seen the starting quarterback get fired for throwing an interception, but I've seen a lot of coaches get fired for not winning.
Yeah.
So I take it all, on me, and where can I get better? Now, when I talk to the players, I try to um, infuse ultimate accountability, not, hey, it's your fault. But hey, look, my fault for putting us in this situation. Here's how you guys can help me. Here's how I can help you. And I think when you have a program that's transparent and open, I think
Mhm.
both parties respect that, rather than you guys screwed this up, you guys didn't do this, and hey, I did everything perfect. So I put a lot on me.
I got Lebby to swear with that, so I appreciate you, keeping it PG here on the show. Uh, One last question. Second half of the season's coming up. What's that going to look like for your program?
Yeah, I think for us, we've got to be able to prepare with the right mental disposition week in and week out. As we turn this corner into conference play, the records don't mean anything. You can be 0-4 going into conference play and run the table in conference and you win the championship. So it doesn't mean anything what you've seen. It's what are we able to do week in and week out? And we've had examples of both. Last week I thought was the best week of practice I've ever been around, as far as on and off the field. The week before, I thought it was the worst week of practice. I thought I was the worst head coach ever. So we've seen both, and now it's my job to get us to replicate the latter more than, what we did 2 weeks ago. It's the player's job to remember what we did last week versus what we did 2 weeks ago. So to me, it's about having the right mental disposition to prepare with elite focus the rest of the season.
Coach Charles Huff, Southern Mississippi football, looking forward to a successful second half of the season down there in Asburg. As always, we appreciate your time, Coach. Thanks so much.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you guys.